7-game slate on a Tuesday. I'm Chris Spags, joined today by one of the premier minds in NBA analysis, Fast Eddie Fair. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm good. I'm Don Kinging up my hair as we speak. Full
Yeah,
Halo
yeah.
style.
Get the soft drink of choice in there now. That's how you know it's game time when you're pouring colas and various other sticky
No, so it would
substances
have
into
to
your
be
hair.
lemonade today, and again the doctor's on me about my kidneys, so maybe some Sobe water would look good. Just because, all right, just so it'll make you happier, we'll do a little. There we go.
Yeah. I'm
Couple.
watching now on camera. This is completely appealing to my fetishes, so I'm very into it. I'm good.
There we go. Sobe dragon fruit flavor.
Ooh,
My
that's
hair is
that. The ladies
is
and
is
flies will have a hard
uh
time seeing that.
is well, it's draconic.
All right. Make sure to hit this video with a like, by the way. It is a Tuesday. We're here. We got Eddie on a Tuesday. This has been a bit of a rotating Tuesday schedule, but Eddie is back here today. We'll have Eddie. We have you the rest of the week, right?
Say again.
We have you the rest of the week. You're on every day.
Yeah, I'm on until there's a shit slate. I took 3 days off in the last week. We had a few 3 and 4 game shit days, and they're doing excellent scheduling this week, where every day we got 7-8 games. Or there's a 6 in there or something, but it's a nice schedule this week. So yeah, I'm on for the foreseeable future.
All right, so there we go. So we're here today. Make sure to like the video now. Obviously, jump into the premium Slack. If you're not a premium member, use promo code Live Before Lock to get 50% off of your first month of any monthly pass that we have, and get the premium access to Slack right on there. Get your questions answered first. Of course, we're going to be turning there. Eddie, we got a bunch of news today. We have some Lakers out. We have some questionable guys remaining. Some chalky cheap guys going on. Take me where you want to talk about first, because I feel like there's so many things I actually don't know what you'd want to talk about up front.
Nerlens is gonna be my dude if Steven Adams hits. Like
Mm.
I'm halfway compelled to suggest firing up some tournament lineups at what I presume would be close to minimum price on a couple sites. He's a slightly better Rashawn Holmes for a good bit less money, who would have to play a lot of minutes in a slightly better matchup. So, and I think more importantly at less owned, depending on when we get formative news there. Now, I think the OKC um, game is at lock, so we should have news. So I would begin formulating your Nerlens Noel plans. He'd be superlative value. I'd like him a little more than Beasley, who I like a little more than Rashawn Holmes. So he'd be my favorite value play on the slate. Pretty significantly, I'd expect him to play 30 plus minutes. I'd project him for well north of 30 fantasy points. He plays actually pretty similar to Rashawn Holmes. Even better with the defensive stats. A little more challenged offensively, but just really, really hyper productive guys when they get the time. And presumably, I don't even know what his prices are offhand. I left him off my ranks, so if you're looking at, I put in rankings every day for members of the premium Awesemo community there, which are designed to be just entirety a player pool. I list every player who I would be playing at least one share of if I had 150, and then letter grade them in cash and tournaments. But yeah, I would be a massive, massive fan of playing Nerlens Noel in the event he starts. And if somehow we did not have that news by 7, I don't hate the firing it as the, especially say FanDuel where it would be droppable. FanDuel is 3,700. Sure, run that out there I would project him for like 32 minutes, 35, 36 fantasy points or something. A really, really significant number. He's a very productive guy.
Yeah, I would project him for about a point per minute as well, and that's where he's been all year, averaging about 1.14 in action. So yeah, I'm with you on Noel. We'll obviously keep you guys abreast of that news as we go. You mentioned Rashawn Holmes in there, Eddie. He is another guy we're projecting to be very highly owned. Obviously, we'll do the halftime daddy likes to see how we're feeling about the ownership projections at Osmo.com in a little bit. But with Rashawn Holmes being one of the highest owned players on the slate potentially, how are you feeling about him? He's a great per minute guy. Prices up a little bit. Maybe not the best matchup on the board with the Spurs, but seems like a good spot for him. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I love him. Before the last slate when Phoenix was playing, we had, I spent quite some time talking about, have a Phoenix plan. I didn't really care much for Dragon Bender, but in the event either Holmes or if Ayton was in, regardless of Holmes' presence, he would have been in a tremendous spot and should become a priority with little time before a lock, sort of like Noel today. And if Holmes was in and Ayton remained out, he would be my number one priority on the day. It's sort of the same way I feel about Nerlens Noel here. And Holmes did end up, and Ayton was out. Holmes dealt with some foul trouble, so he only got, I think, 27 minutes in that game, but was still absolutely a must-need play, and waiting to swap for him. He was 3% on the main slate, and I think actually part of a 6-digit win for some of the people watching the show. So, big fan of. Still big fan. So, in this situation, I am projected for about 31 minutes and about 34 fantasy points. He's very good. He's very solid. He's popular enough that you can now find other places to go, certainly. Like when he was 3% on that main slate and 28% on the late slate, that was pretty golden. Now you're talking about 50% in everybody's number one priority. I'm fine if you find some other places to go. But I like him. And the big bugaboo with him is that game. So this is the fourth time this year that the Suns and the Spurs are getting together. This is their swan song, their fourth time together. And the first three have all been huge shit. Huge shit. I believe the order was the Spurs beat them by 25, then the Suns beat them by 30, then the Spurs beat them by 25, but just dreadful games. Terrible games. Nobody was ever good. I mean, obviously the one random guy off a bench was good occasionally in there, but so bad. So I love LaMarcus Aldridge. It was hard for me when tinkering around building slates today not to go, all right, start building my lineup. Aldridge, Beasley, Holmes, and then start filling in around that. But that's a lot of exposure to this Phoenix game, which obviously has not gotten 3 times in a row very well. Now, again, the one Phoenix blowout, which I believe was in San Antonio, which is probably the most embarrassing game maybe of the Popovich era. Phoenix went into San Antonio and blew them out in a truly dreadful performance. San Antonio, gave them their receipts both before and afterwards. You would think with DeRozan absent, this game would have a better chance of staying close. I have no confidence in that statement, but one would think that it's a little bit more likely. But if it stays close, it's really hard to imagine that Rudy Gay and LaMarcus Aldridge aren't tremendous plays. Rashawn Holmes gonna start tonight, so if it's a blowout, I think Dragon Bender's out there. So that's something that has me a little nervous about playing Rashawn Holmes. But if this game stays close, I absolutely love Holmes, Aldridge, and Gay as 3 of my favorite plays on this slate. And certainly don't have a problem with playing guys like Devin Booker, and I like to have some Bryn Forbes would be a guy I would want some exposure to, who one of the rare high spots in there. I think he had one of his random 40-45 point games against the Suns, and certainly a little bit more likely when you take DeRozan off the court, and his ownership obviously will be nominal, and he will get his 30 minutes or something. Gay prices really well. I do think they're going to be still a little more careful with his minutes. I think you get like 28 minutes out of him. But if this game stays close, Aldridge, I have to project for like 56. Like, it's just an absolute slaughter spot for LaMarcus Aldridge, unless it goes shitty like it did all 3 times they played this year. It wasn't that bad of a spot every time this year, and it's been obviously quite disappointing. I still have to pretty strongly recommend it, what we're looking at for ownership currently for LaMarcus Aldridge. But, full disclosure, we have him at 20% right now. I think there's like a 50% chance he scores 50 or more. There's just obviously a real chance it goes sideways in any number of ways. Even if the game stays close, it's been non-productive in the past. But I can't give you any reasonable reason, having rewatched more of those games earlier today than anyone ever should, I might add. And having watched them the first time and stats on paper, I can't think of a reason without DeMar DeRozan that Aldridge isn't just going apeshit.
So who would you run it back with on the Phoenix side then? Obviously, you mentioned you're a big fan of Holmes. I am as well. You got cheap Elie Okobo there, who's not picking up a ton of ownership after being mostly disappointing since getting some run again. Booker, obviously. Which of these guys would be the ones you'd want to have the most if you're building a lineup with Spurs where you're expecting them to be in there for 4 quarters?
Yeah, that's where it gets dicey. I mean, Booker is the first guy you want to talk about. It is not as tough of a matchup as people make it out to be, and Booker has had his random ice spike ceiling games against some difficult matchups in the past anyway. He's not one of the more predictable guys. He's not one of the guys who tends to be outstanding in great matchups and bad in difficult matchups. He actually does scatter across those bars on the graph pretty significantly for me. So Devin Booker, the first guy, he's the one we can expect to carry the most of this ownership here. There's no one else on Phoenix I love. Kelly Oubre is fine. He's going to get his 30 minutes as long as TJ Warren is out. I'm absolutely fine with him in tournaments every day. But he's found some unconventional ways for him to get to some of his scoring totals. And what I mean by that is if we go game log watching there, he had the game where he had 7 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. So he managed to get up close to 50. And his stocks the last few games are 3-2, 4-5, 2-2. That's not really his forte. 7, 3, and 2 assists over the last 3 games, with the games before that being 0, 0, 1, and 1. Like, it's all managed to come together, but the encouragement is he's really shooting like shit, and he's shooting. Last 3 games, 6 of 18, 5 of 14, 4 of 14. Shooting like 30% of the field, and 30% from the field, and still putting up, 30 fantasy points over each of those games. So no issue with Kelly Oubre, but again, and not the happiest matchup you're looking to see. And again, the price no longer 4K. We're paying 6 for him. It's certainly a little sketchy. McCall Bridges at 3,900 on DK would probably be the next guy I go to. He's just gonna get the time. Obviously, not super productive guy, but I'd rather go there than I'd much rather play McCall Bridges than say Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Ooh, interesting. Is that because of Travion Graham being back in the lineup?
No, that's because he's on the Nets playing on the back end of a back-to-back. Like,
also a fair point.
I'm really disappointed that all the other news broke out, because this was going to be one of the easiest slates ever. Because Rondé Hollis Jefferson was going to be like 40% owned. Mm-hmm. And it was just going to be a glorious thing. I have him right now for 19 minutes and 22 fantasy points.
Okay.
It could work out.
Maybe he
plays 27 minutes again. Maybe he takes 19 shots again. Like, the matchup's good. I'll give him that. The matchup's good. Other than that, I think he's a wretched play. Like, he's a terrible play. Like, there's almost no players who cost around his play that I wouldn't rather play than Rondé Hollis Jefferson. I mean, yesterday in that game, by the way, that was the front end of the back-to-back. The high man for minutes in that game was 28. So, sure, we can try Rondé again, but super chalky Rondé is not. Like, around 5%, I think Rondé's a great play. There's obviously real upside. Maybe he plays 25 minutes. Maybe he takes 15 shots again. Maybe he gets 40 fantasy points. Matchup's great with the Bulls. I'm all about that play. Like, 40% Rondé Hollis Jefferson was lunacy. So, shame all these other things came out. But yes, I have him well behind. I'd even rather run McCall Bridges if I'm looking to run back Suns. In a vacuum, I don't really want to play either of those men that much. But I'd still probably run McCall Bridges at 4% as opposed to Rondé. Wherever we have him now, I think it's still like 30.
Yep, 30% right now. But obviously, there will be an update closer to lock. And we'll talk more about ownership in a little bit here. We'll play Little Daddy Likes, as I mentioned. Let's talk about another game, Eddie, that's going to have a pretty good swath of ownership, though not perhaps with the guys that people might expect. The Pelicans visiting the Rockets. Obviously, New Orleans having a lot of internal strife, shall we say, which will happen when your star player wants to leave town and now is getting fined $50,000. Not the best, but a lot of ownership on these guys here. Jahlil Okafor expected to be the highest owned of the guys in this game, and I'll spare the percentage right now. But how are you feeling about Jahlil Okafor here? Because I'm a little worried this is another cancerous situation, which is where it all kind of went south, was him expecting to start and not seeing the floor, partially because I think of defensive reasons. Okafor is going to be highly owned. How are you feeling about his prospects here versus the Rockets?
Yeah, I do think it is a very boom or bust situation. He can get what he wants against Freed. Obviously, the usage is going to be very high when you're looking at 60 minutes of Solomon Hill and Darius Miller and all those guys out there. So it will be there for the taking. But certainly you can see defensive issues. Certainly you can see foul trouble with Harden crashing into the lane frequently. With Paul back, I actually slightly prefer just raw projection. I have about 1.5 for Okafor over Fareed. But I like both those guys, and they both have a significant upside above and beyond their price. So I think he's just great. I don't think you need to throw him in anywhere. And again, 20-25% ownership, I'd be a fan. If we have him at like 35 or 40, I'd probably try to move somewhere else. But I think he's a strong play, just based purely on a game that has obviously an incredibly fast pace. Really no one there to defend him. He's looked extremely good. Shout out to a number of guys who are too cheap on Yahoo today. I think it's 19 for Okafor. I don't know what the number is, but I think it's 19, which is the equivalent of a little less than, say, 5K on the main site. So one of many, many guys who are well too cheap on Yahoo if you're playing tonight. Of course, all the centers are always too cheap. Tonight it's way too cheap on Okafor and Fareed and Aldridge and Drummond and, well, everyone who's playing center, really.
So you mentioned Fareed as a guy in there, and you prefer Okafor slightly, at least on a projection basis. How are you feeling about Fareed if you were to know that he's going to be, let's say, 12% less owned?
I'd prefer Fareed then. And 12% is a reasonably significant nut. And I don't even have that much confidence in the projection. It's going to be a very boom or bust situation. I think Okafor's projection has a lot more delta in it, has a lot more floor and ceiling, which is actually something generally I like. I'll search out the higher ceiling. Whenever you're playing in GPPs, you want to give yourself the best possible chance to win the GPP. Because if you're, playing it more safely, and again, there's a lot of rounding I'm going to do, so it's a very vague statement that would actually be a very long equation with a lot of factors, but you want to give yourself a very good chance of winning the whole tournament, because if you look at a tournament that's got $400,000 in prizes and $100,000 to first, even if you put in a somewhat safer lineup with a similar upside, if you reduce your chance of winning the top prize by, say, 25%, you've now reduced your equity in that top prize from whatever share of 100 grand to whatever share of 75 grand, which basically increases your functional rake by another 3 or 4%. So long story short, I want the guy who I think is a little more likely to put up 55, which I think is Okafor as opposed to Farid with the current staff out there, even though I think he's also well more likely to abjectly fail.
Okay. I think that logic checks out for me. Some other guys also going to have some ownership here. Eric Gordon and Drew Holiday are not far behind where Kenneth Farid is, and also not far behind where Okafor is. How are you feeling about the peripheral pieces here? And also tell me what you're thinking about James Harden. I'm a fan of Harden here, even though I certainly get the risk involved. But if he's going to be around 10% ownership, I think there's upside there still with what we saw last game, even with Chris Paul back in the lineup. But take me through the rest of the game, Eddie, and which guys you would want to target.
Yeah, I mean, against these Pelicans, you could be playing for the he could be playing for the Western Conference All-Stars, and he could still put up 100. I mean, your ceiling is not gone from James Harden, and at that price, he's understandably, when you can get Joel Embiid for $3,500 less and Giannis for $3K less, points per dollar, he probably doesn't clock out as the best guy, but he has the chance to be the highest scoring player on the slate by 30, and we have more and more 4K value opening up that can get there and give you 35 or 40. So unsurprisingly, I think he's still a very good tournament play. I have him projected for about 68, which is disappointing for his current price, but certainly the ceiling exists there. Not ready to go with Chris Paul at that price. I don't think he's completely out of play in tournaments. You could randomly spike 40 or 45 out of him, and what I am at 28 minutes right now seems a little too cute for me. Eric Gordon's 5K. Again, his ownership was very, very high earlier today. I haven't looked at it recently. There is obviously a huge upside there. Eric Gordon's always a fine tournament play at 5,000. In a game this fast, there's not really a ton to add there. He may get all the shots and make it work. He's going to be sharing the court with basically Chris Paul or James Harden at all times now. That makes me kind of disinclined towards it, especially if he's popular. So no strong take. If he was 10%, I'd like Eric Gordon a lot. If he's going to be 20 or 25, I'm disinclined. Some news that Reggie Bullock is now listed as questionable, which is a shame, because I was really looking for people to really, really be bad and play lots of Luke Kennard and Stanley Johnson and some other really bad guys against the Bucks, because none of them were going to work out, and that would have been great. These two, sorry.
While we're talking about bad guys on the Pistons, Reggie Jackson, thoughts?
Not as bad as those other guys we're talking about. You'll get 24 to 35 minutes. That's kind of disturbing. The matchup isn't particularly good, but someone on that team has to score. It's a bad matchup for Andre Drummond. To the extent that if you, I haven't done this, but I almost guarantee you, if you total up all the fantasy points scored by Andre Drummond when Brook Lopez is on the court versus all the fantasy points that Brook Lopez has scored with Andre Drummond on the court, I'm pretty sure Brolo has more in his career this year. It's literally one of the worst, if you did center to center start splits, that you could get for Andre Drummond. He's been legit bad, so he would be out of consideration for me. Even at, by the way, stupid low price on Yahoo, where he's like 31 and Blake Griffin is like 46. I'd rather play the 46 for Blake Griffin. And I don't really want to play the 46 for Blake Griffin for what it's worth. I would rather play, obviously the Farid, Okafor, Aldridge. All those guys would prioritize higher for me. But Blake's been good in all three matchups this year, which is unsurprising. Again, this is the fourth time these two teams have met. We're getting well along in the season here. I find myself saying that more and more. But Blake basically gave you 45 to 50 in all three games. That's really not enough to pay off his price, and I do think those are slight over performances. I'm projected for about 45, but where he's super cheap, he can play Drummond. I have no issue with anyone playing Andre Drummond even in a tournament today, because I don't expect his ownership to be significant because he's struggled so much, and there's just a raw talent. I got lots of rebounds and blocks. dude can get 50 and at that ownership it can work. I'm pretty disinclined to do so because Vooch is going to go out and give you his 45 to 55, and Embiid is out there who probably is going to put up a pretty decent game for not that much more and carries with him an uber upside. So for me, it would be too cute to go out there and try to Drummond against type today, but it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard of a person doing.
Getting the question in the premium Slack from Don't Embiid my status. And again, use that promo code live before lock for 50% off your first month. Get access to the premium Slack as well as Awesomo's rankings and the ownership projections, which we discuss at some degree of length here. Asking about the Lakers Philly guys, Rondo, Ingram, or Jimmy Buckets on DK. Who would you go with, Eddie? But also tell me about the merits of all those guys.
I really like all those guys. I'm gonna do two questions once because I'm gonna finish your question on the peripheral guys in New Orleans and Houston because we didn't really get into it.
Okay.
You asked about Drew Holiday, to which I didn't respond. I love him. I think he has to do everything. It's really interesting the number of takes I have seen on Twitter on just this one game today. I have literally seen the take where Drew Holiday, according to all stats, is clearly the best person in the NBA at defending James Harden. Saw that take a lot today. And then I saw this is the spot in which James Harden is most likely to score 1,000,000 a couple times as well. So it's really, really, it's a couple days in a row of you can make the data look like anything you want to kind of day. But I like Drew Holiday. You're just getting rid of all the other guys who do stuff. I'm endlessly impressed by Drew Holiday. Year after year, I don't think I can like Drew Holiday more, from his caring for his family in times of need to his ability to do exactly what the team needs him to do, to selflessly play only defense and be like, you guys shoot. Sometimes, I mean, he has some bad games. He has some bad games against Harden because the rest of the team is there, and he just goes, I'm just going to defend James Harden. You guys score enough points so that we can win, and that happens. Which I don't think he has the luxury to do today. And the guys that bring on Darius Miller and Solomon Hill can take some of that stress off him. And there's, again, other guys on that team, so I don't expect him to be quite so focused on that task as to minimize his offensive upside. But when those other guys are out, he's got a very safe, like, 40-plus point floor, and wouldn't be shocked to see, like, 60 out of him. So, like him very much. A bit more of a cash play than a tournament play for me due to the popularity and the increased price where, you know, super paying off, like, he's $9,500 on FanDuel. I think he's just fine for that price, but, you know, there's other guys at $9,500 I think have maybe a better chance of it absolutely exploding. And as far as the value goes in that game, Darius Miller, the first name I'm probably trying to look at. They're not generally a guy I want to get a piece of, and certainly comes in after Beasley for me and after Holmes, but would be on the pretty short list after that. I have him for 34 minutes right now, and what's a wicked up-paced game, and he's like $3,700 on DK. End of sermon. So Darius Miller is someone I would have. I imagine I would be over the field on. I doubt he is strongly. Who gets the almighty 100% tag? No one will get it today. There's too many good things. Almost did it the other day on Aldridge. And regretted shortly after lock that I didn't, and then he was going off. And he only ended with like 55, but he had like 40 in the first half. That spot was too damn good. But no one's getting the 100 tag today. No, not very close. The guy I would be most inclined towards would be Nerlens Noel starting at 653. That would be. I would be pretty excited.
Which has not occurred yet, by the way.
Which has not occurred yet, by the way. Which is fine. I don't want it occurred yet. I want to wait. I want game time's decision. He's checking out his, Aquaman tights and seeing if they fit, and I want everyone to take as long as possible for Steven Adams, and then I want him to be out at 6:57 or something. So just have a plan.
Tell me, go back to the Lakers for me because we went by that one because I weren't done with the other part of the New Orleans game, but I want to hear your thoughts on Rondo, Ingram, and KCP in particular. I personally like Rondo quite a bit here. I think either you mentioned or the deeper dive guys mentioned. Every time kind of it's a flat circle that all blurs together now. But Rondo getting a lot of minutes lately. I'm always a big Rondo guy. I think also him coming off of a day where he didn't really excel, but still the minutes were there, the assists were there. I like him a lot in this spot. I also like KCP quite a bit here, picking up that usage that Kuzma leaves behind. Ingram, I'm never a guy who's a fan of. I just am not Team Ingram. But you tell me, Eddie, what are you thinking about the Lakers?
Yeah, the original question you posed to me was Rondo, Ingram, or Butler. And
Yes.
I really like all those guys. I think I very slightly prefer Rondo in cash and very slightly prefer Ingram in tournament. Very slightly prefer actually. I'd rather play Butler in tournaments, I think. I'd have to look at their ownership. I want to play whichever one's lower owned, Ingram or Butler in tournaments, and they've both been reasonably significant during the day. Right now we have Butler 31, Ingram apparently much less, so I'd rather play Brandon Ingram in tournaments.
Ugh, stupid Ingram. Ingram is the most
5% for
frustrating
Brandon
thing.
Ingram. So, yes, I would rather play 5% Brandon Ingram than whatever 30% Jimmy Bottles. But obviously there is an upside for James Buckets to get in that game. But yeah, those guys are all just priced too good in a game that obviously is going to have a lot of pace, and the Lakers need someone to do work. Rondo's going to play 36, 38, 40 minutes. Is a very good fantasy guy and just is going to be involved in everything this team does, and is the kind of player that these 76ers have been susceptible to all year. This is the first time these two teams got together. I like KCP for his new larger guaranteed role. 45 on FanDuel is especially appealing because it's in that drop range for me. I believe he's also back to the flat 10 on Yahoo, which seems kind of dumb, but that's a thing. And Beasley, I think, the best play on the team. I have him for 27 minutes and 31 fantasy points. I don't know if that's where he lands, but yeah, minimum on Yahoo, 38 DK, 42 FanDuel, I believe is the butcher's bill. But at all those numbers, he stands out as an exceptional play, and small forward on FanDuel, which is sweet. But yeah, I love all those guys. Tough spot for Zubac, but at his ownership, I think it is still a thing you can do. I would rather Jared Allen on DK for almost the exact same price. I do think he carries with him a slightly larger ceiling. I don't know what the ownership discrepancy between those guys is going to be. I don't hate somebody playing JaVale McGee still, if you really want to get pretty cute in this game. But yeah, I like this Lakers guy. This is a Philadelphia team that has really picked up their pace, and the ownership has been, or the defense more accurately, has been really lacking recently. So I like a lot of guys in this game. I like Wilson Chandler in this game, who's 41 on FanDuel, 38 on DK, which, by the way, also goes on the God would I rather play him than Rondé Hollis-Jefferson tonight list at $3,800 on DK. He's going to play 30-something minutes. I just would rather have that guy than Rondé, who's going to play 22? I don't know. But yeah, I think you can get off all the bench guys. I don't think we need a Mescal anymore. I don't think we need a Brewer anymore. If I was going to play a bench guy there, I would play TJ McConnell. He usually comes in as my favorite bench guy there for his guaranteed 20x minutes and steal upside and other things he does. You know, Embiid, I have some concerns because he skipped shoot around due to illness and said, no, I think I'll be good to play, but he still skipped shoot around due to having a rumbly in his tumbly, if I recall correctly. So I have some concern due to that, but just I have no way of knowing. I mean, we've had multiple games this year where he was, you know, questionable with an illness or questionable with, you know, back issues, and then goes out in a difficult matchup and puts up 80. So I would no reason to think that couldn't happen against the Lakers. I have no insight and I've received no extra information on giving me any sort of Prometheus or foresight into this situation.
Yeah. And Embiid too. We talked about it the last time when he had the big game versus the Clippers, I believe. He has had some public quotes about loving playing in LA because of all his friends in the area, which unclear if they are of the busty Instagram girl variety or just regular people in LA.
Well, I enjoy that type of friend. I also enjoy pouring beverages on my head, so I should not be looked upon for a sane judgment.
You're a man of eclectic tastes. Nobody's ever denied that about you.
It's a flat circle.
We are at the halfway point. Actually, so we're at the halfway point, but one ownership theme to touch on real fast. So Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid are both going to be chalk plays. Ben Simmons is going to be very far from that. He's projected for where is under 10%, I think.
Yeah, he is my favorite for that reason. I do per dollar slightly prefer them in tournaments just for as possibly spiking an upside. Probably slightly Butler over Embiid, and then Simmons coming in last of them at his 9K. I think him getting the 60 to really excel at that price is a little less likely than we'll say Embiid getting 70 or Butler getting 45. But for the ownership reason, I'd be absolutely fine to go there. I do think Russell Westbrook is significantly too cheap on DraftKings. 10-6 is too cheap for me. His price has moved around a lot, but that's towards the bottom of his pricing range in which we've tended to see him. And I'm actually a big fan of this matchup. So I like Russ a lot. I'm a little more inclined to play Russ than Embiid for what are currently looking at the ownerships for. And I significantly like Russ as opposed to Giannis. I don't mind Giannis, but dovetailing a couple questions I saw fly by at the same time, I really like Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe's last game was his first bad game in his last 9 or 10 or something. The minutes have floated around, but his last game was, his last game was bad. The game before that, he only had like a fantasy point a minute, and the 7 preceding that, he was averaging like 1.4 fantasy points a minute. Really looking good, really taking more shots, really being more aggressive. I really like this matchup for him. I like him significantly more than I like Giannis. And if you're into the game log watching, if you went back and looked at the 3 games this year, he legit outscored Giannis in the first one and was good in the second and third, where he had 35-ish fantasy points in like 29 minutes. I have him for 32 minutes and 37 fantasy points with an upside beyond that. I like him quite a bit more on FanDuel, where I think he's the exact same price FanDuel and DK. So obviously $7,000 on FanDuel, a little nicer. It makes for sort of a tournament pivot off. I expect a chalkier Rondo, but I like them both. But yeah, it's Bledsoe's been good money for us. I'm almost ready to get off the train, but he's just not owned enough. Like last week, I was sitting there going, it might have been the weekend shows, it might have been by myself. I'm like, Bledsoe's been great 3 games in a row. Yesterday, he won a lot of tournaments. He was 3% owned. I'm going back again, so there's been a bad game, but yeah, they're not on a back-to-back. The only team on the back end of the back-to-back, by the way, is Brooklyn. The Bulls, Pelicans, and Wizards play tomorrow, so some concern for the Pellies there. Just as I don't think it really matters. They don't have anybody, but just for reference, they play again tomorrow.
Yeah, and Bledsoe currently projected for under 10% ownership. So if he is a play that you wanted to make, you can get a little bit of an ownership discount there. Let's do the halfway point Daddy likes. It is halftime in the show, so we will go through the top 5 owned guys on DraftKings and maybe FanDuel if it seems appropriate. But make sure you use promo code Live Before Lock to play along with us. You get 50% off of your first month, any monthly pass there. So go use that. Get all of Awesemo's rankings, ownership projections, Josh's projections, which you just plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, and of course Eddie's rankings as well, all available for you if you're a premium member. Eddie, number 1 on the list here on DK, Michael Beasley, 61% projected ownership on DraftKings.
61, eh? That's almost exactly what Trey Burke ended at yesterday.
Ooh,
sorry.
Sore spot for most
everyone?
of them.
I feel bad saying that because like I don't get to play him. So.
It was so stupid, just not getting any minutes in the second.
I said on FanDuel, play Rozier and Beverly. The not entered in anything FanDuel lineup I built yesterday had like 360, so it was one of those days I was really upset not to be playing. But
it sucked because Trier sucked too, just for the record. Like, because he got the minutes, Trier did, but he's just not a good lead guard, and Burke is clearly a better one.
When you have the opportunity to get Kadeem Allen time.
he was an aggressive player. He was trying to swap block guys. He was doing some stuff.
I liked him with Baston. I like it's oh boy, that guy and that fucking team. I don't want to get into the next. Okay, so yeah. 61. Yeah, I'd be over that. I'll like it. I'll go on top of 61. I'd go say 69 if I'm gonna get on top of it. But the it's too good. Like, they confirmed he had the start X hours ago. Kuzma's gone. LeBron's gone. All the usage in the world has opened up. He has an elite facilitator there helping him out. You know, I have him right now for like 27 minutes and 32 fantasy points, I think, in the last time I just rejiggered this. But, yep, he's good. He's good chalk. I'll go over. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. He's the guy I've projected for the highest value on the slate, and actually, let me see what's the boss man ranking him right now in his latest update. I'm just out of curiosity.
I love that we don't have Nerlens Noel news yet. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just have a plan. Here's what I'm going to do if Steven Adams is out. I don't think Steven Adams will be out, by the way, because the guy is made of like titanium or some shit, and he just doesn't like to sit down, and that's really aggravating for me. But have a plan.
Yeah. Even when he's hurt, he's more like a Wolverine hurt, where he's probably recovering as he's still playing
Someone
through
just messaged me Nerlens time. Is it happening? Is it happening? Can I like tweet the Terrence Ferguson out? Steven Adams out. Okay, so yes, get your Nerlens on.
So now tell me which of these bigs then you would prefer. Give me your ranking of the primary bigs we discussed. I guess of the value guys, but if you want to throw Okafor in there too, because he's so popular, I think that might make sense.
Okay, well, my favorite will be Nerlens because he's going to be Oh, people don't really know the value, and it's 6:35 or so. We got the news, so Nerlens will be 17% owned, and um, he's going to be my favorite by far. So it'll be Nerlens, Beasley, Rashawn of the three cheap guys, and then slightly prefer Okafor still to free.
Okay. So let's go to number 2 on our list then. And obviously this is going to change. So use that promo code live before lock now so you'll know exactly where Nerlens Noel shakes out when we get one more update, probably before lock. Rashawn Holmes, number 2 at 52%. How does Daddy feel about it?
Now I'll definitely come in under because I have an elite option to move to. Now, Rashawn Holmes is power forward eligible, and just feel free to play them all. Talking about these guys we're talking about here. So feel free to play Rashawn Holmes. Like, I'm looking at the DK lineup I'm looking at, and at the 3-4-5 right now, I've got Beasley, Holmes, Noel. So feel free to do that. I approve. You have my permission. At this point, I would definitely come in under that because I have another good pivot away from it. So yeah, I'll go under on that one.
Number 3 on the list, Jahlil Okafor, 49% projected ownership.
I'll also go under on that as well. Now, don't hate it. It's not like, Rondé, where I don't think we're going to get him in the top 5, but, I would want 8% and the number's 30. Like, I think that's a little higher than I would like to have. So, yes, I will go away as opposed to towards, but Daddy still, wants some.
The Manimal, Kenneth Fareed, who apparently introduced himself as the Manimal to Mike D'Antoni during a combine, is what I read today.
Really?
30.
I didn't hear that. That's a brilliant story. He walked up to him and was like, "Hi, I'm the Manimal."
Well, no, he was like, "What should I call you? Ken, Kenny, Kenneth?" And he's like, "I'm the Manimal."
That's great. That's pure comic book introduction. Should I call you Peter Parker? I'm Spider-Man or something like that. That's excellent shit right there. Well done.
He's not a Kenny Fareed. He's pure Manimal. Now we know that.
You gotta embrace
Kenny
your role in
Fareed.
this bizarre life we lead.
Kenny the Manimal Fareed, 35% projected ownership.
I guess slightly over on that. I was feeling around 40-ish for both of those guys. Nerlens Noel will start. Hamidou Diallo will also get the start. Don't do that. Do learn Nerlens Noel. Please, can other people play Hamidou Diallo in a related story? Nerlens Noel being in there instead of Steve Adams is a minor cookie. It is slightly better for Vooch. It is slightly worse for Russell Westbrook. In a related story. Just want to throw that out there. Russell Westbrook, without Steven Adams, it does lose a peg. Largely neutral otherwise. But plus for Vooch, minus for Westbrook if you're somehow grading them. So if I had 150, I would slightly reduce Westbrook exposure and slightly increase Vooch exposure. But not something to super worry about.
All right, and to close out the top 5, we have Joel Embiid projected for 32% ownership. How's Daddy feeling about that?
I mean, I want some news. So this is obviously on a late. They're not. That's the late game. So I guess you can swap off it. So I will just say, have a good swap plan set up if you're going to do that. Like, have a good swap plan. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so there we go. That's the top 5. Again, use that promo code live before lock to get all the ownership projections right in front of your fingertips there. 50% off your first month. Let's go to the premium Slack. Actually, any game notes you want to hit on before we go to the premium Slack and start going through some of their questions?
Yeah, let me see if I got anything else poking around that we didn't touch on that I thought was especially worth mentioning. Though we did a good job. Wayne Selden, especially on FanDuel, I think plays like 30 minutes tonight. The matchup with Brooklyn is pretty good. FanDuel 3,800 makes for a pretty ideal punt. Haven't heard Wayne Selden. Really like Bobby Portis if we find out he's starting. So just something to keep in mind. Don't expect him to have as much ownership as I would want if he's starting. Without that news, really difficult to make that decision. But if we found out he was starting, pretty big fan of Bobby in that case.
All right. We're going to the premium Slack.
Also,
now.
one more thing I want to mention, just because a lot of people are playing there now. Also, all the Cavs are way too cheap on Yahoo. Rodney Hood is $10. 10 is too cheap. He shouldn't be the minimum. He played 30 minutes in North each of his last 2 games. The matchup with the Wizards, who have been defensively much improved over the last month. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, exactly 2 people said to me, I think that's just sample size. Normally when you get a small sample size error showing a vast improvement in defense, it's due to a scheduling issue. because they went through and faced a lot of very easy teams. Wizards have had a really tough schedule in January, actually. They've played like 7 of the top 10 teams in the NBA in January. So that's not it. They're playing significantly better defense for what it is worth. But still, not a matchup I'm ready to say I'm afraid of. So $10 Hood, Zizic in the teens, still has an upside. This is a matchup where earlier this year, these teams played a couple times just in the last 2 months. Tristan Thompson had 60. So, you're not going to get the 42 minutes out of him that we got out of Tristan Thompson in that game in regulation, but you getting 35 minutes and 45 fantasy points out of Zizic isn't impossible. Main sites I'd rather have Jared Allen, a couple of other guys, but at that Yahoo price, Chetty Osman, who's a little tough for me to stomach at 5.2, 5.4, has looked good. Shot totals are coming up. It's coming at the detriment of everyone else, but the Yahoo price, again, the most tolerable. So just, some Cavs exposure there does end up making sense in tournaments. And right. Rig Free is good, and they're still running their Rig Free bonanza. So I assume people are still playing, so I'm bringing it up.
No, that's fair. Go check out Yahoo. Promo code Osmo, I think, still active if you want to get $30 on any $30 deposit there. Free money, as Eddie mentioned. They are giving away free money in various ways. Gibbs15 in the premium Slack asking Oubre, Middleton, or Ingram for DK GPP.
I'll stick with Ingram.
In a FanDuel GPP, how would you rank these three? Hart, Wayne Selden, and Luke Kennard.
It looks like Bullock might play, so Kennard goes from being last on that list to being not deserving to be on that list. I'll go with Selden at that point. Those Detroit wings are not good. You would have my number of Detroit wings out of that entire Galloway, Kennard, Bruce Brown, etc. Those 5 guys who fell in that time who scored 25 fantasy points or more would be like 0.5. I'd put the over/under on. It's just not good. Don't do it. Resist the temptation.
Who would you go, LaMarcus Aldridge or Drew Holiday for more fantasy points on DK?
I'm gonna say LaMarcus Aldridge. I haven't projected for more. I'm nervous as hell. In cash, I'm playing Drew Holiday between those two guys. Much safer, but I'll go with LMA.
Okay. Who would be your favorite shooting guard on FanDuel under 5.4K?
Bless you.
Thank you. That was a cough, but thank you. The sentiment was appreciated.
Bless you anyway.
Oh, Jesus. We got a new viewership high, by the way.
I don't like any of them. So you're talking about the punts. My favorite punt would be Wayne Selden. If I have to spend closer to 5.4K, so the guy's roughly around that price, I would probably play Dennis Schroeder now that Terrence Ferguson isn't going to play. Even though Hamidou Diallo is getting the start, I can try to spin that into some extra time, hopefully, maybe, God willing.
People in the YouTube chat, did you somehow say that Adams was in? I feel like you couldn't have been more clear that Adams is not in.
If I said Adams is in, I obviously misspoke. Adams is out.
You're like, Adams is in. Play a shitload of Nerlens Noel because Steven Adams is in.
Hopefully by context it was clear, but if somehow in my quasi-orgasmic Nerlens Noel joy I said that, no, Adams is out. Turd Ferguson is out. Hamidou Diallo and Nerlens Noel will start for the Thunder. I apologize if I misstated
I didn't
that.
hear you misspeak for what it's worth, but a lot of people in the YouTube
chat. I don't think I did, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time, so my bad. But no, he's out. Adams is out.
We also did set a viewership record at some point here, so thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button, please. It helps us, helps us grow, and more people find us, and then they can yell at us about Steven Adams things that perhaps we didn't say. Jay Kelly 13, thoughts on an Orlando OKC stack? Who do you prioritize?
Nerlens Noel. Sorry.
Steven Adams, obviously.
Nerlens Noel, Vooch at this point. I mean, the tough thing is everyone's expensive. Aaron Gordon, I liked at the start of the day Aaron Gordon a little more than Vooch. I probably would have had that swing back to him now. But, yep. All the guys are expensive. It's tough in that particular stack.
Would you go Nerlens or Darius Miller for a DK GPP?
Nerlens. Although, again, Nerlens is center only. Darius Miller is, I believe, small and power forward. Obviously easier to make happen, so You know, salt to taste, but
Let's see. Would you go LMA or Drew for cash?
I'll go Drew for cash.
Would you go Embiid or Aldridge for a DK GPP?
Again, there is a $1,600 difference between those two guys, so I will say Embiid without knowing the context outside of your question.
Any Aaron Gordon thoughts today? He intrigues me a little bit because of the athleticism and some of the other Magic not being quite as athletic as the Thunder defenders. But
yeah,
what
I
are you
like
thinking?
Yeah, there's a better pace to that. I like a little more Steven Adams out, so yeah, I fully endorse him in a tournament. That works for me.
People talking about your Bledsoe takes. Same old news. All right, Adams out. We know. Thoughts on Dennis Schroeder now on DK?
Yeah, again, I'm slightly more inclined. The price has come down a little bit. Elfrid Payton is out.
Oh, that's not.
Adjust some lineups, my friend. It sounded like that affected you personally. Elfrid Payton is out.
Not a ton, but that hurt a little bit. I like Elf
Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackson Heights' own Mr. Frank Jackson. Get Frankie in there. Really fun tournament play now. He played, I want to say 26, 27 minutes in the last game anyway. I don't know if he gets the start. I don't care either way. He's almost certainly going to get that much time, plus maybe a little bit more now. Basically minimum price everywhere. I like much more than the other minimum price options we were being forced to look at before. So Frank Jackson, fair bit of interest for me now.
Getting 13 shots a game even before this news.
Yeah. So Sexy Franke. I like Flanke. I'm fine with Frank Johnson. He makes a lot of sense there. So I can go with Francis. That's really interesting. Starting to worry about this game staying close a little bit. Like we are running out of NBA quality players on this team.
Russ, Giannis, or Embiid, who has more raw points?
I will say Embiid, barely over Russ, barely over Giannis, between those three guys.
Would you go Beal or Drew for Yahoo Cash?
Beal or Drew for Yahoo Cash? I will stick with Drew. I like Beal quite a bit in tournaments, but I will stick with JR.
Thoughts overall on low-owned Beal on FanDuel?
I mean, you're spending $10,000. It's a good spot. Again, the Wizards beat the crap out of the Cavs a couple times this year. Beal was good. Wall played in both those games. You still managed to get for it. So, it's, a spot where you can get the 60 out of Beal here. So, I think he's fine. It's tough for me to spend 10-1 on him over 8-1 on Booker. I don't have him projected that differently at this point. So, that's tough for me. But, Frank Jackson, Nerlens Noel, guys I'm pretty interested in now. Nerlens by quite a bit more, allow me to be perfectly clear on that. But Frank Jackson now pretty appealing as minimum price play. DK mostly would be the most appeal. FanDuel, I think, are spending up at point guard a lot, and there's a lot of other cheap options. Yahoo minimum there's lots of good minimum price guys who I think are probably still better than Frank Jackson. But DK, where I imagine I won't lie, I don't remember I want to say 31. Check the prices every day and try to remember them.
Frank's 34.
Yep. I still have some distinct interest in him there at that point with Elfrid out. That's very interesting, and it's nice because more shit for people to scramble around, and they won't get as much Nerlens as they should. I am so excited to see how on Nerlens Noel is in only 8 minutes.
The anticipation is building as we speak. Let's go with this either or with Rondo.
Terrible. I hope it'll last.
Rondo, Darius Miller, and Kenneth Faried, or Kenny the Manimal Faried, or Derek White, Rashawn Holmes, and Bobby Portis for DK in a tournament.
First one in cash. Second one's a tolerable tournament pivot.
All right. Let's see. Bullock is out. We've established that. FanDuel cash, Bledsoe, Harden, and RHJ, or Simmons, Middleton, and LaMarcus Aldridge.
What were the first three again?
Bledsoe, Harden, and RHJ.
The second one. It's like there was someone in there I know I didn't like. RHJ, yeah, there you go. Nope. No, no, no,
Uh,
no, 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 no,
any
no, no, no.
thoughts on Tomas Satoransky? I feel like I don't know that you talked about him at any length, but he's had a
He
couple
was. I
big
mean, he was
assisting
in the.
games.
He made the six digits the other day too. He was on that same lineup we talked about him a lot, and that was he was like 10% on there. And with all this other stuff going on, I don't think that'll come up that much. But again, that was a $5,400 price tag. Now he's I think 6 flat and 6-7. That is losing a little bit of value. He's shown there and a couple other times he does have that massive value. He can get you 45 or 50, and it is still a really good spot for him. So I'm much less inclined than I was there just because of what I expected to be and ended up being a pretty significant ownership difference. But I'm fine with him in tournaments. I'm a little bit concerned the pace is down, but obviously the matchup is as good as it gets. But that's not where he butters his bread. Again, I really liked him against the Spurs for other reasons. It's not just about pace and things of that nature. But certainly, feel free to. Tonight would be a fine night to play Tomas, but not quite as good as the other day. Bullock went back to questionable, then went out again. Langston Galloway will start at the 2. Glenn Robinson, Little Dog starting at the 3. So literally no idea how many minutes you get out of Galloway, Robinson, Kennard, Stanley. If I had to play one of those guys at this point, it would be Galloway, but would much rather Frank Jackson, Nerlens, and 17 other guys. So I really don't think you need to go there. But if you wanted the guy for Detroit, it is Langston Galloway is the one you would want to play the most.
All right. Would you rank these three? We have Bledsoe. Where did they go? Bledsoe.
Rondo.
Fuck these stats. Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Hold on. Yeah, just disappeared. Well, never mind. Rank them in your head. How much Wilson Chandler is too much?
Again, it's a risk tolerance thing. I like Wilson Chandler a lot in this spot at low owned. Now I like him a shit ton less than Nerlens Noel, but is there an issue playing Vooch and Noel together? No, it's actually better if you play them together.
Oh, here we go. Bledsoe, Rondo, or Satoransky for both cash and GPP. Rank those guys.
Rondo in cash, Bledsoe in tournaments for me. I don't have a problem with Satoransky in tournaments. I can't get there in cash over Rondo or Bledsoe. Although, in fairness, FanDuel, they're priced pretty similarly. I think there's a $300 differential from cheapest to most expensive there. DK, there's $1,000 difference. So,
let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Would you go Middleton or Zach LaVine for a FanDuel GPP?
Zach LaVine.
How about Frank Jackson or Rodney Hood for DK cash?
I'd probably play Hood in cash, although for DK, Frank Jackson's 34, Rodney Hood is 4,000. I feel like you can do something better with your lineup with that $600. That said, I will say Rodney Hood between those two guys. I would still have him projected a little bit higher. I don't know if we've seen Frank Jackson as starting yet, but I would expect him to at this point.
Would you go Zubac or Gay on a DK GPP?
I'll go Gay tonight.
Let's see. People talking Frank Jackson, Ben Simmons and Beasley, or Rondo and Ingram for a FanDuel GPP?
Rondo and Ingram, if you can manage to run it back with, say, an Embiid or someone else. Wizards starting who we thought they were. I'm in full news search mode at this point. Sorry.
Yeah, we haven't had enough news. We need more.
Well,
let's get more cramming in there.
This is where the money is made. DFS is incredibly difficult at this point. This is honestly where, if you know what you're doing and you're paying attention, you make money. Because most people's algorithms don't know what the fuck happens when something goes awry. They're very, very good when everything is lined up nicely, and then something changes, and very frequently a lot of people who are just, pulling numbers out of a spreadsheet don't have no idea what the fuck that means. So that's really one of the few advantage spots you have less. So I'm a huge fan of news. I love 658 news.
Any Houston value for you tonight?
No.
Is 3 Lakers too many for a FanDuel GPP? In particular, if the 3 Lakers are Ingram, Rondo, and Beasley?
No.
Lowry, Fareed, or Aaron Gordon for a FanDuel GPP?
Aaron Gordon. Don't mind Lowry either. I don't mind any of the three of those in a GPP. But for a tournament, I would rank them probably Aaron Gordon slightly over Laurie Markkinen, who I think is my favorite. I go back and forth between Laurie and Levine as my favorite of those guys in tourneys today.
A lot of Frank Jackson or Tim Frazier questions.
I'm going to stick with Frank Jackson. Tim Frazier has fallen by the wayside as far as minutes and what you see there. Frank Jackson played 26 and 27 minutes the last 2 games. Tim Frazier is healthy and played much less. I'm going to look it up. Now, there's a chance because they want to keep Frank. I don't believe he played in the last game and played 16 in the minute one before that. So, he has largely supplanted Tim Frazier in the matchup. So, if we saw Frazier starting, I don't have a problem with Frazier. I'd project him for almost identical minutes at that point. But if we don't have that news, it would be Frank Jackson for me. And I still don't have news on a lineup there, so I'm going to stick with Frank.
What are your thoughts on going balanced in GPPs with Aldridge as your most expensive player for DraftKings in particular?
I'd want to play Nerlens Noel. I'm a sucker, and that strikes me. But I imagine you can still get a value or two in there. So playing like Noel, Beasley, and a lot of 7 and 8K guys, I think is a great lineup construction. I don't think you need Westbrook or Embiid. I like them both, but Embiid's got a bad stomach. Maybe he only gets 50. Play Jimmy Butler in your balanced lineup, giving you some leverage against that. So I'm fine with that. There's nothing wrong with that construction to my mind.
Okay. Ingram or Ariza for a FanDuel GPP?
Ingram.
All right, going to YouTube now because we think we closed out the Slack ones. Chetty Osman, any thoughts on him? He's had a nice little run here.
I think he's fine in tournaments. Best on Yahoo. I'm not thrilled with it. Like I get that he's taken a lot of shots. He's looked very good the recent games, so I will give him some credit for stepping his game up a little bit. But I would not overreact to it and be like all of a sudden he's God's gift. So meh, pretty suitably meh on it. The price has come up enough, and I'm not totally convinced that it's for real after basically 50 shitty underperforming games. He's looked good for the last 3. I am dubious. Not impossible that he's really, turned a corner and he's going to play the way I thought he would the whole year for the rest of the year after being shitty again for most of the year, but I am dubious.
Bledsoe and Westbrook or Harden and Darius Miller for a DK single entry?
Bledsoe and Westbrook.
Okay. No other relevant questions here. Let's see. YouTube, you got anything? Favorite pay-up forward on DK?
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Interesting. Okay.
We are there, my friend.
We are there. We are locked. So there you go. Let's see what we got for ownership for whatever games we got.
All right. There's a few games, too. I am so excited.
What do you think Nerlens is going to be at?
What do I think he's going to be at? There was so much going on at the end. I'm going to say he's at 14%. I originally thought a little higher, but A, not someone I think that largely exists in the public zeitgeist. B, center only on DK and FanDuel, obviously, is really going to limit that number. Might even be lower than that, but it's going to be a good number. Nobody tell me. I'm waiting on the download.
No spoilers.
I'm not looking at the chat. I'm actually in my friend's account, who, if I will be shocked. He's similarly a Nerlens fan, so I'd be like, bullshit.
Josh did not get his lineups in.
37%. Fuck
wow.
You people spoiling my Nerlens play. I can't even take responsibility for more than like 4% of that either. What the hell? 37.
You still feel good about that now that he's that high?
37. Try not to suck any dick on your way through the parking lot.
Yeah. Good life advice.
I can't believe that got that high in time. Like, I am shocked with center-only eligibility that it got that high in time. I am agog.
That's on DK, too?
I am aghast.
Huh. Yeah, it's surprising. I think we had previously estimated it was like 15%-ish of the people who respond to news very fast and do it, but maybe that's a higher number than we realized.
That's a number from a guy who would have been 4%. Now, I guess the fact that we got Steven Adams as a game-time decision, enough people started to, as suggested, formulate the plan. So they were like, "Oh, this guy's gonna be pretty good in there." So yeah, 7 o'clock games. The highest owned player, Nerlens Noel. I'm very disappointed. I'm sad.
Apparently, we had him at 32% in our most recent update. So we were there. We were there.
Okay, good job. I one of several times this year I have disrespected the public in general. Occasionally I don't know. We're gonna see where Rondé comes in. I may take back some of that respect. But good job, public. Nerlens Noel, 37%. I'd still want more. But I project him very slightly higher than Beasley, and just with a generally safer minutes load. Pat at center has generally been a failure. Jeremy Grant there's been okay, but I think you get 32 plus minutes. He's very good. Nerlens 37, Russell Westbrook 35, Tomas Satoransky 20. So yeah, that was really my, the other day I slightly preferred that matchup. He was 5,400 and we got him at 10 or 11%. Today he's 20%. He's $600 more. I think the matchup's actually a little bit worse. Giannis 19. Aaron Gordon, 13.4. That's fine. Paul George, 9.6. Hard not to like Paul George under 10%. Chetty Osman, 9.5. Yeah, there's Chetty Osman's a guy I could talk about for a while, but I didn't have anything to add. The matchup's obviously good. He's sort of screwing up the whole team right now because he's actually been good a couple games in a row. He's playing 38 or 40 minutes. He's actually taking a shot every 2 minutes, so he's out there jacking up enough shots that he's getting his value and looking like he's going to score 35 points every night. So that makes everyone else solidly unappealing and him difficult to trust, and it sort of derfs the entire team a little bit there. But I was fine. I don't think he was cash playable. But I was fine if you ran him out in a tournament. Certainly not worried about the matchup with the Wizards. He was shit against the Wizards earlier this year, but he was shit against everyone earlier this year, so it's not really a standard we can apply and learn a lot. Blake, 8.7%. Chris Middleton, 8.5%. I don't see Eric Bledsoe yet, and there's Chris Middleton at 8.5%. What does my boy Eric Bledsoe have to do to get some respect? Reggie Jackson, 6.7%. Alec Burke, 6.4%. Bradley Beal, 6.4%. That feels good. Vooch, 6.4%. I like that a lot now. Tony Snell, 5.45%. I think he's flat 3,000. I think I ranked him at a B in cash and a D in tournaments. He's gonna get you 12. Probably won't get you 20. Eric Bledsoe, 5.4%. People don't know the value. Luke Kennard, 5.3%. People really don't understand. I don't know. I guess that can happen. Now he's not even starting, so good luck. Rodney Hood, 4.3. Sure, he's only 4,000. He would be the guy you'd look at first on DK. And again, 10 on Yahoo. So that. Jordan Clarkson, 4%. Sure. Jeff Green, 3.75. Again, it looks like Decker and Mahinmi are going to play. A little shine off the rose there for that. Trevor Ariza, 3.6. Turd Ferguson, 3.3%. Congratulations, you played yourself. We got way early there. That's not Terrence Ferguson. That's Terrence Ross. Oh, victimized by not enough room in my Excel window. I pump faked. Congratulations.
Actually, no, it's Terrence the RB from.
I played myself. Evan Fournier, 3.2%. Jeremy Grant, 2.8%. Colin Sexton, 2.7%. Stanley Johnson, 2.5%. Dennis Schroeder, 2.45%. Hamidou Diallo, 2.4%. Thomas Bryant, 2.4%. I like that. You would have liked those other guys out, but still, versus Cleveland, power forward eligible. Thomas Bryant made sense there. Ante Digits, 2.22%. I like that. Andre Drummond, 1.63%. See, public, you're looking. Most people would see kind of cheap Andre Drummond, get on top of that, but no. Otto Porter, 1.5%. Boy, that bloom came off that rose quick. Turd Ferguson, 1.5%. Congratulations, you played yourself.
Still more too much for Terrence Ferguson regardless.
Yeah, that's still, they took care of an eighth of the rate.
Even on a normal slate, it'd be 1.5 seems a little high for Terrence.
He is the only one of their four shooting guard. Well, I guess I'll take Schroeder out of the thing, but of their, Hamidou Diallo, him, Alex Abrinas, all those guys just basically taking up time at the two while we wait hopefully for Robertson to get back someday. He is the one who looks like he's at least developing a little bit. True. So if I had to play one, it would be Turd Ferguson. But
what's happened to Alex Abrinas? Because I get alerts on him every day being he's out for personal, he's out for illness. Is he okay? Is everything okay, Alex Abrinas?
I don't know. Maybe he needs a hug. I don't have George Hill.
Not enough Alex Abrinas news for me. I feel based on the amount of alerts that I get about his
George
coming.
Hill 0.6%. I'd want more than that. I'd want 5%. He's 3,300 of the guard value, he would have been one of my favorite ones. I'm at like 26, 28% more. I don't hate the matchup. So, again, useless information now, but I would have liked that a little bit. Steven Adams, 0.2%. You played yourself.
One last question from Uzi, who's got a Yahoo GPP issue. Drew Markkanen and Tim Frazier, or Rondo Rondé and Ben Simmons.
Did I miss Tim Frazier news? As of right now, Tim Frazier is not playable for me, so it'll be the other one. Like, unless I see Tim Frazier starting, he's behind Frank Jackson, and I think he plays maybe 16 minutes behind Frank Jackson or something. So I don't think even at minimum price right now you can play Tim Frazier. So it's going to be the one that didn't have Tim Frazier in it.
Oh, Rinpack saying that Alex Abrinas looks very sick. I don't know if he's joking or not, but I hope you're okay, Alex Abrinas.
Maybe he's got like that Juancho Hernan Gomez missed a whole year with mono type thing going on.
Oh yeah, the kissing disease. You don't want to be missing time. Well, those luscious Spaniard lips. He's Spanish, right?
You know what they're gonna say? If you're gonna get it, get it.
On that note, let's all go get it right now. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to use the promo code LiveBeforeLock for 50% off of your first month on any of our monthly passes. Get all the rankings, ownership projections, rankings from Eddie, projections you can have for Fantasy Cruncher from Josh Engelman, some of the best in the business. So go check that out now. And like the video. We had set some viewership records today, which we greatly appreciate.
What did we get? We got like $2,000 yet?
I think we were over 1,700, which I believe is around where we're supposed to be for record setting. Though honestly, we need like
I said $2,000 by Valentine's Day. Don't let me down, people. Invite your friends.
Ooh. Yeah, we need like a chalkboard to like update this by the day, so we know, because we're not doing.
We need like a thing behind me. I have this big ass white space here. I need to put up like a board for recording bets and attendance records and shit. I should do that.
Yeah, we should do that. Or I just have my dogs wear one around their neck and they can strut around like a ring girl.
We should get you a bitch collar that has information on it.
As if I don't already have one of those. Here we go. Some more Abrinas news. Out due to undisclosed personal reasons from a Thunder source. We're gonna get to the bottom of this Alex Abrinas case by the end of the season. I'll tell you that much. There's going to be a Hardy Boys episode. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. I'll be back with Eddie tomorrow. So, hey, same crew, doing the same stuff, giving you all the latest news. So we'll see you guys then. Good luck.
Good fight. Good night.